that. And I think it's very appropriate that we have this Reserve Forces Day commemoration to recognise the ongoing significance of service to our nation through the armed forces, both on the front line and in the support areas. So I regard this as a very great compliment to have the chairman of this group. I was looking at the motto standing behind me, or on the wall behind me, Quam Pura Nites, how brightly we shine. And I think it's particularly appropriate today when we had a lot of rain yesterday, just to be reminded, Autorecans, admittedly, recently, but Quam Pura Nites. Now, I've probably given a number of you an opportunity for winning a bit of a bet tonight in asking people if they know what the state motto is and what it stands for. So what it means is, translated, recently born and how brightly you shine. And I think it's a very appropriate motto for us today. The recently born part has perhaps gone sort of behind us, but there's always hope. But I think I can take pride in how brightly we all shine. Now, today in particular was a big credit to the organisation of John Moore in being able to pull this day together. I woke up in the middle of the night and heard the rain coming down and turned over, and I thought, well, tomorrow's going to have to be the plans. We had plan A, plan B and plan C. So I thought today would be a plan C day in which we didn't emerge out into the elements. But something happened, and here it is. We're here in the sunlight, and we've had a wonderful opportunity of seeing that great organisation, which is Reserve Forces Day, come to the fore, and so many people, including the school cadets, in fact people of all ages. And I think great credit is due to the organising ability and dedication of John Moore and his colleagues. It's been great to have here today the band of the 1st 15th Royal New South Wales Lancers. Army service bands are a little bit under threat, and I say this with due apologies to our political leaders, but I'm a great believer in the bands myself. They tend to bring the community together. And to the forefront of them is the 1st 15th Lancers, of which I was proudly the honorary colonel for a decade or so. And of course all the veterans who have turned out. Well now, my task is a simple one. I have to welcome by name, and this significant, simple but significant, welcome by name the representatives of our national leaders, particularly the service area. In the first place, of course, is our host, the Honourable Barry Farrell, Premier of the State, in whose house we meet today. We're very grateful to have the access earlier to the Speaker was going to, well, by the Speaker, I should say the Speaker of the New South Wales Legislative Assembly, not a speaker from another place. In fact, when I was sitting on a chair out there in the foyer, while people were coming in, I was asked a number of times, are you? I said, no, I belong here. But Premier, it's very gracious that you have allowed us to have access to Parliament House and all these facilities for our launch of this year's or next year's ceremonial parade. The descendants, the World War veterans, have lent a very real element of sincerity and reality to the occasion. I remember we are the soldiers of the Queen village, we used to sing that when I was in prep school, I should whisper it, in the early 1930s. And two of our teachers in the prep school, they seemed to be women of incredible age, had boyfriends who were killed in the Boer War. And they used to tell us stories of the troops departing for the Boer War, marching down George Street. It was a wonderful little prep school called EPS, Edgecliff Preparatory School, which we were marked as being eggs, pepper and salt. A little prep school at Edgecliff, and we had these two wonderful teachers who told us about the loss of their boyfriends. And so I've been aware of the I suppose the contribution made by families of service people since my prep school days. However, it's wonderful to have the World War veterans with us, and I was delighted, and I'm sure many of you were, to see that the British government is looking again into the circumstances Breaker Morant's. There was a movement which was put in place by a group of senior servicemen, ultimately leading to a petition going across to the Queen, and I see the British government is looking at it. Well, now, coming to my particular task, I'm delighted to be able to welcome the representative of the Prime Minister, Honourable Matt Thiswaite, who's up here in the front row, Senator Gary Humphreys, representing the Leader of the Opposition, Vice Chief of the Defence Force, Air Marshal Mark Binskin, AO, representing the Chief of the Defence Force, David Hurley, who has recently succeeded to Air Marshal Angus Houston's role, both very distinguished servicemen, and I know the Air Marshal's got big shoes to fill. I mean, David Hurley has big shoes to fill, but he's ably supported by a deputy from the Air Force. Major Rob McCulloch, representing the Consul General of New Zealand. Many of you may have seen him outside. He's got a Boy Scout's hat on, but it's been ironed with the wrong creases. I'm sorry, Rob. I wouldn't try and get away with that if I was on my own.
We just put us back about 100 years.
But it's very nice to have neighbours from the Tasman joining with us, as they have over the years in Reserve Forces Day events. Rear Admiral Stephen Gilmore, AMCSC Commander of the Australian representing the Chief of Navy, and Mrs. Gilmore. And it's very appropriate that the Navy's here. We've got the Lancers band, but after all, the Navy is the Navy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm at risk in saying that too, I know, because this is very much an army-oriented group. But I'd like to think the Navy makes up in perhaps the extent of the contribution for the numbers when we're outnumbered by the Army. But anyway, Admiral Gilmore, it's a delight to have you with us today. Major General Michael Slater, DSC, AM, CSC, Forces Commander representing the Chief of the Army, Mr. Daniel Morris, Air Commodore Gary Martin, Commander of the Airlift Group representing the Chief of the Air Force, and Major General Paul Brereton, representing, who is the head of the Reserve Policy section of the Army. General Brereton has the added distinction of being a much respected member of the Supreme Court bench. So I'm not sure which hat he's wearing today, but in either hat he's an adornment to the office that he holds. And then Dr. Darrell Duncan represents the Surgeon General commanding the Joint Health. And we have an apology from Bronwyn Bishop. I mention it specifically because Bronnie has been a tremendous supporter of the Reserve Forces Day movement. She was a student of mine, and I used to lecture at the law school. There were about 4 girls there, and they used to occupy 1, 2, 3, 4 seats up the front, and they'd start to catcall me if they didn't like what I was talking about. But Ronnie's been an old friend personally and to many lawyers, but she's also been a very loyal supporter of Reserve Forces Day. We had to get her on the phone a number of times in the early days when we had a few, I suppose, wrinkles to get over, John, wasn't it? And then we also have a representative of the Salvation Army, Eastern area, Major Jeff Winterbourne. Well now, ladies and gentlemen, the war was well in the past, but its memory is still with us, and we've got that wonderful Soldiers of the Queen March still ringing in our ears. And I think it's appropriate that John should now tell us what his plans are for next year. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for coming and for supporting.
I don't know how he does it. He always seems to get a plug-in for the Navy. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with the Navy, but acting third-class private, wasn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, it is 110 years next year on the 31st of May when the peace treaty was signed, and it's a significant occasion because At the same time, we're going to be promoting the fact that there's no built memorial to the Boer War in Anzac Road, Canberra. So we're using the theme for 2012, the Boer War, and of course it was fought by citizen soldiers, so we think it's very relevant to what we do. The theme will be used right throughout Australia, and we'll recognise reservists current that are serving overseas and serving now. So that will be the sort of the theme, that it still follows on. They're very keen to go to the Boer War. They even pay their own way to get to South Africa in many cases. They've been there once, they're shipped back, they went again, and so they're not logged on through the Australian records, they serve with the Brits. So it's very significant that people are still volunteering. Next year our parade will be on the 1st of July, which will be down on the Domain. It'll be spectacular. It will involve a lot of the veterans, and not veterans, descendants. They're getting a bit old. But what was significant, we have a lady here that is the daughter of a Boer War veteran. Now where is that lady? Yeah, over here. And that's quite significant. She was born with a father of 67. And one of the gentlemen that was going to march today, as he says, 80 plus, he's the son of a Boer War veteran. And when I started looking into this, I just couldn't think that it was possible, because most people say, oh, they're great-grandfathers and so on. What we're going to do to also acknowledge them is to produce a medallion, which will be a fundraiser for us in the Boer War Association, in a way that will be very significant, because it will have the newly, once it's out, the way the memorial is going to be built, that will be on the face of it, and it will be used right throughout Australia, and will be presented on parade. So it won't just be in the mail sort of thing, it will be done with some style in memory of the veterans. And we're pleased to announce that today. There'll be a lot of involvement in the design of it, but we'll run with the project, and we'll make sure it's widely available. What we wanted to do in the parade today was sort of show the link. In other words, we had, we had the, at the front we had the Boer War soldiers, and they look splendid. Where are you, Mike? Somewhere there? Yes, well done, Mike. Wonderful turnout with the uniforms that were worn in South Africa. It's a khaki. They didn't go in the bright green one. So we had them, thanks Mike. We had the descendants. Then we had the 10-11 flag showing the 110th anniversary, 11 decades. And then we had the associations. So thank you for your support in coming today, because it's always good to have a launch like this in a place so significant, and the fact that it means that we'll all start focusing right throughout interstate with all the interstate people and throughout Sydney. I'll now hand over to Bob Joseph.